the most basic need for all life on Earth: water. Without it, no life can exist. Water is for life. But all over the world, people's access to fresh water is being threatened by privatization. Transnational corporations see the control and sale of fresh water as a huge profit-making opportunity well into the future, especially as fresh water continues to become scarce for more and more people. Goldman Sachs has said, water is the petroleum for the next century, and what that means is, like oil, whichever companies control it will reap unimaginably large profits. Banks and corporations are investing in land with aquifers and lakes, as well as water rights, public utilities, and water infrastructure. Others are making huge profits simply by putting public water into plastic bottles and selling them by the millions. And that brings us to Wellington County in southern Ontario, Canada, where people and communities are waging an important battle to protect our precious water from the well-known corporate giant and marketer of bottled water, Nestle. Our story starts in Aberfoyle, a small rural community in the south end of Wellington County. Nestle Waters Canada owns a well in Aberfoyle, which they use to extract water from deep below ground. The company has an Ontario government permit to take water for up to 3.6 million litres per day. The water goes straight to a bottling plant where the company manufactures and fills millions of plastic bottles every day. Nestle also owns a well in Hillsburg, where they are permitted to take another 1.1 million litres per day. This water is piped into a convoy of tanker trucks 24 hours a day and transported back to the Aberfoyle bottling plant. From these two wells in Wellington County, Nestle is removing up to 4.7 million litres a day of the area's precious groundwater. A standard Olympic swimming pool holds 2.5 million litres of water. By this measure, Nestle is permitted to remove almost 2 entire Olympic swimming pools a day, or over 686 Olympic pools every year. That's a lot of water, but apparently it's not enough. Now Nestle wants the right to take even more groundwater from Wellington County. The company recently purchased a third well, this time near the picturesque town of Elora. They plan to apply for a permit to extract another 1.6 million litres of groundwater per day, which would be like adding another 233 Olympic pools to the 686 they're already allowed to remove, a total of 919 Olympic pools a year. The water from the Elora well would also be transported to the Aberfoyle bottling plant by a non-stop convoy of tanker trucks traversing our rural roads. At Wellington Water Watchers, we believe the bottled water industry is unsustainable, unnecessary, and it must stop. Why is it unsustainable? Most of the water that is pumped and packaged by Nestle and other bottlers is shipped out of our watershed forever. It does not come back. Meanwhile, there is mounting evidence that our groundwater aquifers are under stress. Basically, we're removing water faster than it can be replenished. The bottled water industry unnecessarily adds to this problem. If this trend is allowed to continue, the bottled water industry will pose a direct threat to the future water needs of our farmers and communities. In recent years, we've been given a taste of what global warming may have in store for us in the decades ahead. Lengthy dry spells and drought conditions have been hitting southern Ontario with increasing frequency. In a future world of drought stress and water scarcity, allowing the bottled water industry to continue their activities in our community simply makes no sense. Not only does the bottled water industry threaten our water supply, it also contributes to the growing worldwide crisis of plastic waste in the environment. Around 1 million water bottles are purchased by consumers every minute of every day around the world. Many of these single-use bottles end up in landfill sites. Many others are simply discarded as litter, and eventually end up polluting our rivers, lakes, and oceans. Of course, in places like Ontario, which have good recycling programs, many of these bottles do get recycled, which is better than litter or landfill. But recycling is energy intensive and adds carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, so it's not the ideal solution. In a case like bottled water, it's simply better to reduce, and even better to refuse. After all, most people in Ontario can get safe, clean drinking water simply by turning on their taps. So why does the Ontario government allow this wasteful use of our most precious resource to continue? Ontario's Permit to Take Water application process was designed over 30 years ago to allow farmers, municipalities, and local industries to have access to water, access that authorities could monitor and control. It was never intended for the wholesale extraction and removal of water for pure profit. Yet along came this new idea in recent decades of mass marketing water in plastic bottles, and companies like Nestle requested and received permits to extract our water. In 2016, due to growing public pressure, the Ontario government decided to review its water permitting process for the bottled water industry. They placed a moratorium on all new permits for bottled water operations while they conducted their review. Then, in 2017, they raised the water-taking fee for bottling companies. Remember those Olympic swimming pools? 40% of the water in one pool equals 1 million liters. Extracting that amount used to cost water bottlers a ridiculously low $3.71. Let me repeat that. 1 million liters for $3.71. The government finally raised that fee by $500. That sounds good on the face of it, but what does that work out to per liter? 1 cent maybe? Actually, it's a whopping 1/20th of 1 cent. So companies like Nestle are still taking our water essentially for free. Still, for us, the issue isn't fees. The reality is, no amount of money can ever bring back the water that bottling companies have been removing from Wellington County over the years. That's why we're calling on the Ontario government to protect Ontario's water for the future. They must start by saying no to Nestle in Wellington County and reject all new water-taking applications and renewals from this company at their Aberfoyle, Hillsburg, and Elora wells. Then they must phase out the entire bottled water industry in Ontario within 10 years. They must keep all aspects of water under public control and out of the hands of private profiteers. Finally, when reviewing any water-taking permit application, they must respect the duty to consult Indigenous communities who may be impacted by the removal of water from their traditional territories. Please support our urgent campaign to protect Ontario's water. Tell the Premier of Ontario and the Minister of Environment to say no to Nestle. Visit saynotonestle.ca for more information. Water is for life, not profit.